Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's see how to set up a complete free Agentic IDE experience with unlimited tokens. Let me explain. So Google Anti-Gravity is not for free. GitHub Copilot can only be used for free with limited tokens. Windsurf is not free. Cloud Code extension in Visual Studio Code is not free. But what if you can set up something similar? What if you can use an extension in Visual Studio Code that works with your local large language models where you don't have to worry about API utilization? That is exactly what we are going to build in today's video. It's going to be very simple. It will hardly take 10 minutes for you to set up. So make sure you watch this video till the end. And this is very important, both in terms of security as well as cost. So make sure you share this within your network. Let's get started. So before we head to the setup, let me quickly explain you what exactly are we going to set up and what is the architecture. So we are going to set up an agentic IDE experience. What is an agentic IDE? In a regular IDE, you can just pull your application source code or maybe your infrastructure as code manifest, Kubernetes manifest, and keep working on them. But when it comes to agentic IDE, it comes with AI agents, of course, large language models integrated with AI agents, so that you can directly ask the AI agent within the IDE, maybe to explain the application source code or fix issues within your application, even add features to your application. This is exactly where VS Code plus GitHub Copilot comes into picture. Using GitHub Copilot, Visual Studio Code becomes Agentic IDE. Or you also have native Agentic IDEs, something like Anti-Gravity, or even what Amazon launched, like the Kiro IDE. Even Windsurf is the same. Now, how are we going to set up this? Because this is of great use. This is also very, very flexible. You don't have to go to ChatGPT, generate code, and then come back to your application and integrate the code with the application. So what we are going to do, even in our case, when it comes to IDE, we will use Visual Studio Code because it is completely free. It is also based on an open source project. So we will use this. When it comes to models, we cannot use external models because they will charge us for API calls. What we will use the local models. We will pull the models locally on our machine using Ollama. But here comes the big question. How will you integrate Visual Studio Code with Ollama? How can you create that AI agent experience? There is an open source project called Continue.dev, which is something that we are going to use. So Continue.dev is an open source free extension, which is part of Visual Studio Code. By installing this extension, you can connect to Ollama, and using Ollama, you can connect to the models that are running locally on your machine. But now you might say, but Abhishek, when you look at GitHub Copilot or Anti-Gravity, they are very powerful. They understand the source code. They can explain the source code, and even they can act directly on the source code. Is that possible with local models? The answer would be no. But what Continue.dev makes things special, instead of one model, it asks you to set up three models so that you get the similar performance. Now, why do you need three models? So here we'll not be installing three same models or three similar models, but we will install one text model or also called as chat model. Other one that we would install is basically auto completion model. And third model that we are going to use is for embedding. Let me explain. So the model that you would interact directly is going to be the chat model. This is the primary model, something like Llama 3, right? Continue.dev recommends you to use something like Llama.3 or DeepSeek model with more billion parameters, or even GPT OSS model. The other model is auto completion model. Because let's say you are writing some code and you don't want AI agent to generate the code for you, but you want it to auto complete the code for you, maybe using some snippets or using some suggestions. This is where Continue.dev will use the auto completion model. This is a lightweight model. You can go with a Quen model with less billion parameters. Finally, the embedding model, which is very interesting when it comes to Continue.dev. It makes use of the embedding model to index your source code, right? It will index your application source code or Kubernetes manifest, even to that matter of fact, infrastructure as code artifacts. It will index them and then it will perform the search operation. So this is how your agentic IDE becomes powerful. Even you can ask Continue.dev to go through the complete source code, explain what exactly a function is doing, or you can ask how is this function connected to other function within the source code. Anything that you can do with GitHub Copilot, Anti-Gravity, Kiro, or even Cloud Code extension in Visual Studio Code. So this is the architecture that we are going to set up. I'll repeat one more time because if you're new to this entire thing, you might find it little confusing. So to set up our agentic IDE, the IDE that we are going to use is Visual Studio Code. In general, Visual Studio Code is a basic IDE where you can just download the source code. You can edit some files, basic operations that you can do with any IDE. But to make it special, we will use an extension called Continue.dev. Continue.dev can connect to Ollama, and using Ollama, it can connect to models that are running locally on your machine. So this way, Visual Studio is equipped with AI agent. And to get the similar experience like the powerful AI agents like GitHub Copilot, what Continue.dev does, it asks you to set up three different models, one chat model, one auto completion model, and one embedding model. Chat model is a primary model that you interact with, which is basically for the code generation or explaining you the application source code. Then the auto completion model is something that helps you with completing the source code that you are writing. And finally, embedding model is the one that index your existing application source code that you clone from GitHub maybe, and it will help the chat model to perform the search operation. Now let's go ahead and complete this setup in Visual Studio Code. So this is my Visual Studio Code. I already cloned the repository. I cloned Argo CD into it, which is an open source project, so that we can experiment with the files. The only prerequisite for this setup, you should have Ollama running on the machine. If you don't have Ollama, just install Ollama on the machine. Then the next step that you have to do, you have to go with the extension section. So just click on these four boxes and search for continue. So you will find continue.dev. Just go for the official extension. So this is the one, continue open source AI code agent. And this is from continue.dev. Make sure you select this and then click on install. You can see an icon here. Click on this and it will ask you to set up the models. Click on the models add-on. You will find API key. That is when you want to go with external models. Of course, we don't want to go with it. Click on local. And if you have Ollama, it also shows you the steps. So these are three models that you have to download. Download a chat model, download autocomplete model, download embeddings model. I've already used continue.dev in the past. That's why you can see I have all of these models running. These are the only recommendations. If you don't want to go with Llama 3 model, you can go with something different as well. Something like GPT OSS model or even a powerful model. It's up to your compute capacity. Once you download all of them, just scroll down and click on the connect button. That's it. Your agentic IDE setup is complete. Very simple and straightforward, right? Now we can experiment with the files. We can experiment with the agentic IDE setup. Instead of Llama 3 model, I'll go with the different chat model because Argo CD source code is pretty huge. And I have compute power. I have like 32 GPUs on this machine. I have more than 64 GB RAM. So what I'll do is I'll change it back to Ollama, auto detect and connect. And this time it should show all the models that are running on my machine. So here I also have GPT OSS 20 billion parameter, which is the one that I usually use. I'll select that option. Now let's verify. So we will provide it with a prompt. Explain the project in very simple words. You can see here, it only thought for 2.6 seconds and it started explaining. This is a GitOps tool that watches the Git repository, turns files into Kubernetes manifests, and keeps one or more Kubernetes clusters in sync with the manifests. So it understood the entire application source code and it started explaining things for us. Not only that, it is also explaining the folder structure. So there is a CMD folder which has the code related to the controller. Then there is the server, there is the PKG folder, there is the UI folder, which hosts the web application related source code that helps you access the application in the browser. And a very detailed explanation, right? Explanation of the Docker files, explanation of the Kubernetes manifest in the repo. Perfect. Now let's go a step ahead. Let's see. We will open a file. So I'll go with the controller source code. Let me go to appcontroller.go, which is the heart of Argo CD. And let me ask it to explain a particular snippet. Okay. So I'll hover on top of this. I'll right click on continue. So you can see, just like Copilot, you got an option called continue. Add to chat. Now we'll ask, explain the snippet and what exactly it is doing. There you go. So it is also explaining this particular source code. Very, very detailed. Figure out the key, enqueue, the refresh, and it is also talking about the caching data. What exactly is the delete functionality performing here? Even we can ask to enhance this particular snippet. Okay, let's say you want to, maybe you're working on a pull request and you want to enhance this functionality. So you can just go back, click on continue. Now this time, add to edit. So instead of add to chat, I did add to edit, and I can just say edit the function, fix any issues with it, or enhance it. Yeah, enhance it. Let's see what happens. I mean, it would only do it if there is any issue with it. Probably it's going to add more comments, or it's going to explain how we can do it in a little better way. There you go. So it added some comments because the functionality is already clean. So it added one comment here, other one here, and other one here. If you're fine, just click on the accept. If you don't like it, click on the reject. Again, just like GitHub Copilot. You can also set up complete applications with it. So if you want, instead of editing the files or working with the project, learning and understanding it, you can even create your infrastructure as code manifest. You can build a to-do application or your hobby project, even an open source project from scratch. Let me also show you some rich features that Continue.dev provides. You can use multiple sessions. So let's say you want to keep this session active and you want to go with another session. So click on the sessions button, click on add a new session, or you can delete the previous session. So basically, it also provides you session management. It also provides you support for MCPs. Okay, screen width is too small. So you can click on the MCP server, just provide the configuration of your MCP server, either using npx or by updating this MCP server manifest file. So you can connect your project with any MCP server to access the files on the internet. I already covered about the models. So you can install different models as well. By default, it asks you to go with a chat model, autocomplete model, and embedding model. But let's say if you don't like the default models that it suggests, you can change the models as well. And there's also configuration file. So this is your complete local configuration file where you can also define the permissions. For example, for Llama 3 model, I allowed the chat, edit, and apply options. I mean, I granted it those roles. But when you look at the nomic embed model, I did not grant it any permissions because all that it has to do is only index the source code. So that's why I restricted it with the permissions. This is not rocket science. I looked at Continue.dev official documentation and I configured this config file. You can also do it. So yeah, these are the main things. I hope you got a clear picture. If you liked it, please let me know in the comment section. And if you want me to do anything related to AI, also comment that down. Share this within your network because it is cool to have a setup like this. See you all in the next video. Take care.